Welcome to the Prepped and Polished podcast, the podcast that empowers you to take control of your education, featuring weekly interviews with influencers in the world of education, as well as tutoring tips, lessons, and updates. And now, here's your host, Alexis Avila.
And welcome back to the Prepped and Polished podcast. This is episode 180. Make sure to join our Prepped and Polished community. You can find us on SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Instagram, and YouTube. Type Prepped and Polished and you'll find us. Go to preppedandpolished.com for more info on tutoring and test preparation, and chat with us instantly online. Have a question or reaction during or after the podcast, submit your question to radio@preppedandpolished.com. Let's get to today's guest. Today on episode 180, I'm talking to Catie Costello, educational consultant at College Options. College Options is a comprehensive college consulting and admissions firm in Sudbury, Massachusetts. They work with students all over the world. Catie began her career representing Vanderbilt University and Kellogg School of Business at Northwestern University as an admission officer. She has 30 years of experience in the breadth of educational settings that include elementary, corporate, and higher education. On today's episode, Catie talks about how to best identify and access the support available to you in college, especially for students with learning challenges. For another related conversation, go back to episode number 50, my interview with Linda Katz on helping students with learning challenges find the right fit college. Let's get right to my interview with Catie Costello. This is episode 180. Enjoy. Catie, thanks so much for coming on the Prepped and Polished podcast. How are you today?
Alexis, thrilled to be with you. Thank you so much.
So share with our audience, please, your background, focusing on a few pivotal moments that led you to where you are today as an educational consultant at College Options, and with really a few specialties, one being one helping students with learning differences transition from high school to college.
Well, Alexis, I've been an independent educational consultant now for 5 years, and my work has really been shaped and informed by two distinct professional experiences. I really wear two hats, a college admissions professional and an educator. I began my career in college admissions and worked for both Vanderbilt and Northwestern universities, and my graduate work at Harvard focused on higher educational administration and an exciting time in the admissions field at the advent of both marketing and enrollment management strategies being used in the college admissions profession. So it was really interesting. And then a cross-country family move initiated a second career for me in elementary education. My work in the classroom supporting children with learning differences really informs the strategies and supports that I provide my clients today. As an elementary school teacher, I was frequently involved in supporting students and families in the diagnostic process, and I also collaborated extensively with special educators and families to implement independent learning plans. And finally, as an IEC, I guess my biggest priority is really getting to know both my students and colleges. Caitlin, our principal, and I have made more than 450 campus visits over the last 10 years. And my visits always include a conversation with student support services, where I have a thorough conversation to determine both their range of services and the best fit for learners.
Wow. Now tell us a little bit about College Options and what types of services does the company provide?
Oh, sure. Well, our College Options offices are physically in Sudbury, Massachusetts, but we work with high school students, sophomores, juniors, and seniors throughout the Boston area. We provide a full range of comprehensive college search and application services. We're committed to helping students and families identify personalized good fit college lists that matches the student's academic, social, and personal needs, as well as really understanding and supporting the family's savings and college budget. We provide customized consulting in a variety of areas, but always in the college search and application process, which includes writing support, financial aid and merit money, and also can include athletic recruitment, fine arts and performing arts admission, as well as guidance to students with learning disabilities, which is really my aspect of the practice. We have a unique team approach, however. College Options combines personalized attention of a small practice with actually the resources of a team. And our team has a combined 65 years in education and admissions. Our clients benefit from a personal relationship that they build with their primary consultant, but they know that they have our team's breadth and depth of experience to draw from.
Amazing. And now when you talk about support services for students in college, what types of supports can a college offer for students?
Well, it's very interesting. Colleges offer a widely varied and broad range of support services for students with learning differences. And the reason that the services vary widely is because college students are protected by civil rights law rather than the educational law that supported them in elementary and secondary education. So, many colleges choose to provide augmented services for, I skipped a thought. Colleges are actually legally only required to provide accommodations that allow students access to their programs. However, many colleges choose to provide augmented services for children with learning or students with learning differences. And the services are typically referred to in terms of levels and are referred to as 3 distinct levels of support. The basic level, or what we call the accommodation level of support, are just basic learning accommodations that are required by federal law. Typically, a disability office is staffed by only administrative support personnel, and their role is to approve and facilitate classroom accommodations. On the opposite end of the scale, some colleges choose to offer what we call comprehensive support service levels. These are defined as programs staffed by trained professionals. They are typically fee-based programs, but not always, and they are staffed by specifically trained special educators. Students meet a minimum, typically, of once a week with their individual support personnel throughout the semester or school year to receive help with executive functioning, writing, content area, in addition to getting set up with accommodations and technology supports. Program services vary widely in terms of the number of times a student is seen, from daily to weekly, but students are assigned specific appointment times and attend just as they would any other class. Now, and then in the middle of those two ranges is what I call a range that we call service level supports, or what I call a la carte programs or services. These programs offer a broad range of learning supports offered by trained professionals, administrators, or peer tutors. Often these programs are available to the entire student body, but some programs offer specific support services for students with learning differences.
Oh, I see. Okay. Do you find that most colleges in the U.S. offer great support services for students? Is it a rarity or is it a mixed bag?
Well, as I explained earlier, support services really vary widely, and it really depends on the mission and the intent of the college or university. And yet, colleges are quite transparent about the services that they provide. The support level that I think varies most widely, accommodations are accommodations. Comprehensive programs, while being sometimes niche and focused on a particular support or disability, are what they are, and they're very well defined. But what varies the most widely is the services that are available at the services level. Sorry for the double entendre there. But students with learning differences can be supported individually at this level, but typically they meet less frequently, and with a variety of support professionals who may or may not have special training in working with students with learning disabilities. Less robust services provide the majority of supports through peer tutors or peer mentors and that are provided with some level of training, but they're not trained professionals. But frequently, what I find is that the most robust programs in the service level are developed and led by a dynamic special education professional and are really what I refer to as signature projects. So what's important to remember is that these services are available at the service, that services are available at the service level, but they're not mandated. So students must, the most important thing is that students with learning differences that are receiving service level supports have to be good advocates and be proactive when they need assistance. It's the students' responsibility to make their own appointments, to meet with the appropriate personnel, and they have to self-advocate with their professors to receive accommodation. So while there is a wide range of services available, students need to end up being well prepared to be their own, to really direct their own supports and services at that level.
Definitely, they have to be their own advocate for sure. Now, when you without giving away all your secrets, but when you work with students trying to identify the best fit schools that not only offer great support, but how do you find those kind of schools? Like any tips on how to kind of go about that?
Well, I mean, I think I take it from the perspective of supporting families. Certainly, when they work with me, they end up having the benefit of just a tremendous amount of college knowledge that's self-developed. But when in giving tips to families, what I would suggest is that college websites are a great place to start. Googling a college name along with disability services or student support services will lead you to information that really will clearly define the services that are available at that individual school. One quick kind of dipstick, if that's what you call it, to determine the depth of services, is really to start at looking at staffing levels. If there are only one or two staff members, then you can expect that in most circumstances, they offer only accommodation level services. The only exception to this rule of thumb is that smaller liberal arts institutions, and in that case, their support services often collaborate with faculty because of the small classroom sizes and the more intimate student faculty relationships, or closer, I guess I should say. And oftentimes it's expected that faculty provide robust services for students. So it's important to ask the role that faculty play in supporting students when, in fact, you're looking at these smaller institutions. But probably the most important tool to determine best fit for a student is a campus visit. Families are often really uncomfortable about scheduling appointments with disability or support services offices, but I consider this imperative. These offices do not communicate with the admissions offices, and unless a student chooses to disclose their disability in the application process, these visits are confidential. And when families schedule a campus visit, campus tour, they just need to make sure to schedule an additional appointment for a support services interview. I think it makes great sense. I always provide my students with a questionnaire that helps students ask direct questions, that ensures that they get a thorough understanding of the services, and also an ability to end up determine whether or not they're a good fit for those services. And my advice to families that are doing this on their own is to ask questions about, for instance, staffing level and training, which we've reviewed already. Required documentation that students would need to submit just so that students have things prepared if they choose to enroll. The accommodations that are offered, and those can certainly be traditional accommodations as well as great technology supports these days. And then certainly services offered, which could span a full range from one-on-one support services, tutoring, executive functioning, study skills and testing strategies or writing support. And then another question that's kind of interesting to ask is also whether or not the schools might offer either summer or pre-college orientation so that when students arrive, they're fully up and running as the semester begins. And of course, another question always to ask, and that is critical to ask, is whether or not there are additional fees for these for supports and services.
Invaluable tips. Now, you already touched upon this a little, but I just thought maybe we could recap. So once a student is in college, what are some tips on how to best take advantage and access the types of support available to you in college?
Well, one of the unique aspects, and probably the most unique aspect of for students with learning differences in college is they are once they turn 18 years old, a legal adult. And so while in high school, all of their support services have been mandated by educational law, managed by special educators, and these students almost often have parents that tirelessly support and advocate for their child. The unique aspect about the college level is that at 18 years old, students actually, when they enter a college or university, choose whether or not they want to self-identify. A student has the ability to be able to enter college without anybody knowing that they have a unique learning profile. And in fact, some students have been so well prepared at high school that it's unnecessary for them to seek services. Conversely, though, in order for a student to receive any kind of accommodations or support, the first thing they have to do before they enroll is to do something called self-identify. And that's when they reach out to the disability offices or student support services to let them know that they want to self-identify, submit documentation, and then end up having a conversation about accessing accommodations and services that best support them. So really and truly, a student needs to end up being well prepared more than anything else to take the lead in being responsible for their own education. And so to me, that is truly the number one thing that students need to know as to how to take advantage of accessing support services that are available to them, is to end up reaching out, self-identifying, and then taking the necessary roles it takes to partner with support services. The other aspect is, too, that unless a student chooses and does it deliberately, that your professors will not know. And so students need to end up on a semester or quarter-by-quarter basis when meeting with new faculty members and professors. Reach out at the beginning. Notify them of any particular accommodations that they are going to be accessing, and actually learning and describing their unique learning profile to their professor, so the professor knows how best to end up supporting them in the educational process. And so really and truly, I would say it's the partnering both with faculty and partnering with support services that is what's most critical. And with faculty, the difference between high school and college is that in high school you are in a classroom typically on a daily basis with a teacher for at least an hour a day. With faculty, you see them typically just 3 hours a week in a classroom format. But faculty hold office hours on a regular basis, and it is absolutely critical, really, for any kind of learner, whether it ends up being a student, because we all have unique learning styles. But the most effective learning partnerships in college are going to end up resulting from really from reaching out, taking advantage of faculty office hours, and really partnering with faculty to end up really making the most of your educational experience.
Great tips. So helpful. So how do we best get in touch with you and work with you?
Well, the best place to start is with our College Options website. It provides an introduction to the range of services that we offer and to our team. You can find us at www.college-options.com. And for listeners that are driving, just simply Google College Options Sudbury. There are ways to embedded features in the website that allow you to be able to send inquiries and requests for phone consultation or inquiry appointments. And one thing we do offer all potential clients is a 30-minute complimentary inquiry session in our Sudbury offices. And the reason we do this is while we end up being able to communicate much about our services through either our website or phone conversations and support documents, the real critical issue in the relationships that we have with our clients is personal fit. And so we always invite families in to allow them to meet us and allow for the student client ultimately to determine whether or not it would be a good working relationship. So that's really that's the starting point. If everything seems to work collectively, then we move forward from there.
Fantastic. And for any teens listening to us today, Catie, any words of wisdom before crossing that bridge to young adulthood?
Well, without a doubt, the college application process is overwhelming. But for students with learning disabilities, it really can be daunting. And since our topic today has really been focused on supporting students with learning differences, I would encourage them to understand that the most important thing that they can do to prepare for a college transition is to become very familiar with their own learning profile and the supports that are critical to their academic and personal success. Students that know themselves and have the ability to self-advocate will find great success in college. And so parents need to involve students in IEP meetings and need to empower students with skills that promote their independence. And with that kind of work and self-awareness developed at the high school level, it will absolutely ensure that students are set up for success when they begin college.
Perfect. Catie, thanks so much for coming on the Prepped and Polished podcast, and really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, and I really enjoyed our discussion.
And this wraps up our show today. This was episode 180 with Catie Costello. To connect with Catie and to work with her, check out www.college-options.com. I hope you enjoyed episode 180. Tune in soon to hear our next podcast episode, number 181, which will be our next tutoring tips episode. To access today's episode 180 and all of our podcast episodes, head over to preppeddandpolished.com/podcast. Thank you for joining us on the Prepped and Polished podcast. Now go out there and take control of your education.